All right, hey guys, I'm Scott Skybell, and last year I did a breakout just like this on chroma key as well. So when somebody asked for it for today, I'm more than happy to help. But let me ask you guys something. What do you guys want to learn out of the next 45, 50 minutes that we have together? Okay, I want to make sure I hit your needs. What do you guys want to learn about as it relates to chroma key?
I want to hear tips and tricks on the equipment used, that type of thing, and also the adjustments within Camtasia itself.
Okay.
To get the best effect.
Okay, awesome. So we got some equipment and tips and tricks, and then Camtasia specific elements. Windows or Mac?
I prefer Windows, that's what I use.
Okay.
Whatever's best for you guys.
And last night I shared that I'm all Mac. So if a TechSmithy could help me, perhaps on the Windows specific elements, that would be great, because I don't use that app. So that'd be awesome. So I'll make sure to save some time so we can go through the hardware elements. Anything else you guys looking to get? No? Okay. Then why don't we, oh, yeah.
Ideas on using green screen for video, like for promotional purposes.
Okay. So some promotional type videos. Okay.
Ads, video ads.
Video ads.
How would you use?
Okay.
Different ways of using green screen video promotional ads.
Okay. Anybody else? Why don't we do this? Let me quickly show just a couple of examples of some of the ones that I've done for work. So then we know sort of, okay, this is what we're looking to create. And then let's take a look at how we could create those. And I'll share some of the tools, the video. We actually brought some props even. And then from there, some of the tips and tricks. And then make sure we hit how we can do it in the new Camtasia Studio. Sound good? Let me do this. Let me fire this up real quick. At work, I do a lot of webinars and train salespeople. One of the things that that they've asked me to do is say, hey, Scott, can you create some sales training videos? And so in my home office, and guys, I do all this out of my home office, probably about 12 by 14, okay? I'll show a little setup of what my office looks like. It is nothing fancy, but these are some of the videos I might create. And you guys won't be able to hear the audio because of the way I've got it plugged in, but it'll give you a feel for what we're talking about. Now, this right here is done my home office, and that's all chroma key. And the objective here was to say, hey, Scott, can you sort of show what a sales rep might look like and how they might, deliver this? So the thought was, put yourself in front of an office. And guys, again, this is in my home office, and I just shoot it like I was, calling it on the doctor's office. Okay, so a very simple setup, nothing fancy. And I'll pause it right here. These types of a video might be something you're looking to do. Not quite the marketing video, but basic chroma key, faking where you are, or creating a more pleasant background of when you're doing a talking head type video.
Well, that's not the standard background you were using. It was a light blue.
That was a light blue. Let me play it up. We'll get back to where you guys can see it a little bit.
It worked out fine, other than your iPad showed through.
You caught that. You know what that was? It's a very good catch. That is actually the reflection coming off the green behind me onto the iPad. Very observant.
Is that a real photograph too, Scott, or is it an artificial background?
That is a real photograph. So what you can do is think about this. The blue background that you saw, that was simply created in Keynote. and I did a radial blur. So you can create a background and create a very pleasing background just by going into Keynote, PowerPoint, whatever tool you might use, and then saving it as a JPEG, PNG, TIFF, whatever format you want to do. So you can also get it to be more of the branding of your location. And then that image was taken stock photo, a slight Gaussian blur, so you create this illusion of a depth of field, and then I just used it as a background. So a quick 2-minute video reps, here's what something might look like, so we create a little bit more realism. I did about, I think I did about 8 of these in like a 3-day period, just knocking it out real quick and getting it back up and distributing it. So this is something you can create very quickly at home. So let me show you a little bit about my setup, because again, it's nothing fancy. And then let's get into some of the equipment, about the fun stuff on how we can actually do this. This video right here, I think this one will show something. Okay, I'm going to pause it right there. What you're going to see here, guys, I'm just sitting at my desk, and so you can see the bookcase and all that. There's a camera over here on this one just shooting at me. This green right here, my wife loves me. Okay, she let me paint my office wall green. Okay, so it looks hideous in the front of the house, I will tell you that. But all it was just green paint. With that, though, because of the chroma key, it can be blue, it can be an image, it can be pure white if you want to do that apple white, effect. I've done a lot of those, but you can turn it into anything. That's why it's in my office. So that gives you the idea of what's going on behind me. So nothing fancy. And the other thing is, my room, 12 by 14. It's not a big, it's just like a little home office, okay? So nothing fancy there. But we can get some pretty cool effects. So let's go into maybe the hardware. Okay, what does it take to pull this off, and what am I using? Let's see. The first thing, guys, I would encourage a green or blue. What's really cool about Camtasia now is that you can literally remove any color, which is awesome. But what will happen, if you're wearing that color or if it's too close to your skin tone, guess what? That gets removed too. The uglier the color, and hideous green works wonders, because you would never wear this color. And so it makes it really easy to remove it out. Okay, it pops out. Or you could also use perhaps a blue. So if you've ever heard of a blue or green screen, that's what they're referring to. And the brighter, perhaps the better. It just makes it easier to pop it right out. So if you've got a good solid background, the next thing that comes down to are the lights, because that's probably the most critical piece. Now, there was somebody last night who said they would help on the lights. Thank you. Tips, tricks, perhaps on some of the lighting. And we actually brought some, so we can sort of show what you're talking about, too.
Here, come on up. I was trying to do some online shopping at the same time.
Hey, you weren't listening.
No, I wasn't. I was paying attention, but I wasn't listening to everything. So you need to be at least 1 yard back from the screen, if not 2 yards back. Get as much distance between yourself and the green screen as you can, because what can happen, even though this is quite a dark room, I can see my shadow there. So that shadow will show up as noise, and you need to light the screen independent of the person that you're lighting. Okay, so you need uniform lighting, you need a flat screen. You don't want any wrinkles at all in the screen, because those wrinkles will show up as noise. If you Google 3-point lighting, there's a very common technique where I have one bright key light that's perhaps at about 45 degree angle, a soft light, perhaps at a similar or lower angle, and you need a backlight. The best way to learn about lighting is to watch local television news and watch national television news. Look at the newscasters. You'll see a lot of light on the back of the shoulders and on the hairline. It's very important. That's top backlighting. And then watch the shadow under the nose. Because you'll see as you look at me, there's some light coming over here. You should see a nose shadow that's going this direction. I'm not sure what I look like right now, but perhaps it's going that direction. Television and video is a very flat two-dimensional medium. So you need to try and accentuate the depth and the dimensionality that you have as an individual. You don't want to look flat. So you need this minimum sort of three-point lighting, and this can work, although it's a compact fluorescent lamp, and what you'll find was with many artificial light sources, they may have some specific peaks in green and blue, and a tungsten light source or an incandescent light source will have better color, or even daylight if you've got all daylight sources. But again, if you've got this, it will work, and it's just a matter of plugging in and turning it on. And if you want to do this, I could probably bring a light kit out and we could experiment a little bit with that later.
No, we brought a light.
Oh, okay, very good. So we need some lights then. So this can be used as a soft light, I think. Let's see what it looks like inside. Okay, very good. A whole bunch of LEDs, excellent. Although I made some comments about artificial light sources, and this, again, it's most light sources have discontinuous color spectrum. Not necessarily important to appreciate, but if you think the color isn't quite right, you may want to try a different light source, because there's really only one rule. What do you want to see, and how do you want to see it, is the important question. It's not a technology issue about what light sources you're using, because if it looks right, then it is right. And you have this ability to test how your lighting looks by comparing how you look on screen to, say, a local newscaster or a national newscaster, and it's a very, very interesting way to see these sorts of things. I actually have some slides. If maybe we can plug in, I can show you some examples of lighting techniques. Do we have, Matt, do you know if we have an iPad 3 dongle hookup thingy?
I've got a 30-pin connected to mine.
What we could do, though, is if we have something, we can just use Screencast.com and call up a
Reflector out.
Okay, it's not going to work in the building. I tried it already.
You don't need a wireless for that.
As we're working to get that set up, one of the key points he mentioned was the lighting. We need to make sure that you light this separately from yourself. And what I mean by that is you may want some lights like this behind you illuminating the screen. That will take care of any of the shadows, and that will make your chroma key much more effective. So you have this behind you, you light that, and now when you stand in front of it and you want to get as far off that as possible, as much as your room will allow, and then light yourself, and there won't be any shadows on that, and you'll get a good green screen. Okay, so that'll be the key piece there.
We're just going to plug in a laptop. And
Okay.
There's a presentation I did a couple of years ago, so we're just going to look at a few slides.
Let's continue on with some of the additional hardware. What type cameras are you guys using? What type cameras might you have at home that you might want to use for chroma keying? I'm sorry, that's the green screen effect where we remove the background. Okay.
We call it chroma key because green screen, it doesn't have to be green.
Have a GoPro.
A GoPro? Okay. So that's HD, I know. Any other cameras? iPhone? Okay. You could do it with an iPhone. I know the iPhone doesn't have the same quality chip, maybe. But if you have a lot of light, and the softer the light, the better, it will produce a good chroma key. So you can definitely use something as simple as, you know, our phones to remove the background.
What about the laptop itself?
I wouldn't recommend it. The webcam on our laptops, even on some of the newer ones, it's just not strong enough. I mean, it's just not a strong camera. iPhone's about as, I'd say, as low as you can go on some of that. John, you guys all set up?
Do you want audio or?
No, there's an audio not important right now. I'm just trying to,
Scott, can you give them mic
You bet.
to narrate?
I'm trying to
Yep.
get this to
Show
cooperate.
us what you got.
Thank you. Double click.
Just probably just one click away.
Okay, and should we go full size? I can't see it on your screen now.
Okay, hang on. Let's go here
Okay.
and then go.
Okay, good. So this is a presentation I did for WordCamp a couple of years ago. So I'm just going to go and pick out some specific slides. So this was an idea for making screencasts. It's a Drake equation. Drake equation is a... Oh, sorry, I went a little too fast. Hang on a sec. I'm so used to using a mouse. Lighting. Interview lighting. Here we would go.
Just one tap there should work.
Okay, and pause. So this is an example. You can see. Oh, sorry. Can you maybe you could just click that back. So this was an example before teleprompter. You can see the performer's not actually looking at the camera. You need to look at the people, or look straight at the camera, not off to one side. You need to get the table of contents, and yeah. Let's go to interview lighting first. Thank you. And maybe go to after teleprompter, before teleprompter. Okay. So this is before teleprompter, and then we can go to the next one, please, Matt. And look at this Guy Kawasaki. There's a professional marketer. He's not looking at the camera. Not a good idea. Exactly what not to do. And we go to the next. So this is an example of lighting. Now, this gentleman visually seems to have a little bit of an attitude. Perhaps I picked him for a specific reason because I think of something he might not want done. But let's look at the background. You can actually see the books. There's daylight coming here. There may actually be color correction filter because this is using tungsten lighting to light the scene. Okay, and this may be daylight color corrected to tungsten or not, but you can see the daylight's blue. Look at the light coming on his face, and we can see some shadow here. This gives very good modeling. But there's one thing that's missing, and that is if you look at his nose and look at his forehead, notice how bright they are. The human eye goes to the brightest object. What's actually missing, which a lot of news professionals use, is they use neutral face powder to pull out these highlights, because sweaty skin or shiny parts like bald heads are very reflective, and you want to try and reduce that. You don't want that to become a center of attention from an image point of view. We go to the next, please, Matt. So what can you see here? Now this is a well-known podcast, but what you can see is they're awfully close to this monitor. There's no sense of depth. And also this gentleman's got a very shiny head, right? A little bit of powder could happen. Not a particularly good picture. And the next, please. So this is a professional news broadcast. Now notice this is Australian news. This is the Sydney Bridge in the background. Notice how it's slightly out of focus. That gives you a sense of depth of field. Now look at the lighting on his shoulders. There's a lot of backlighting that's coming straight down on the back, on his shoulders. Yeah, there's a lot of light coming here. There's a soft light here. This is softer on the inside. This is the key light coming in here that's coming at about 45-degree angle. This is a very good example of three-point lighting. Let's go to the next, please. Whoops. There we go. So this is the important one. Now look at how close they are to the back set. Okay, they're very, very close, but look at, they're not standing. They actually look like they're standing, but they're actually sitting down. And this is actually a side shot. This is actually a green screen. They actually don't see her. They're actually, it's just a mock television frame to pretend that it's a television screen. And of course the laptops are just props. They're really reading teleprompters. And the pens and the paper, again, they're just props. They're not really there. That's important. But it's important to see how close they are to the background. You can actually get close, but the reason they're able to get close is they made the background photograph out of focus, so it looks like there's more depth. And the next, please. So let's see if we can go back up to lighting, if we can. Not up to here. Yes, so this is the important one. So here you can see this gentleman, his different elements being added in to make the final composition. You can see how the flowers are lit in the background. He's got a key light here, a soft light here. There's some nice shoulder lighting. Again, this is 3-point lighting, but also the scenery in the background is being illuminated. And you can see here all the different light sources that are being used. Again, forget about the hardware necessarily, but think about 3-point lighting as a very basic place to start from thinking about how to light yourself if you're going to light yourself in front of a green screen or in front of any object. It doesn't necessarily have to be a green screen, because there's really one rule. It's all about what do you want to see and how do you want to see it. And if it looks good, then you did a good job. Those are the things really to remember. So hopefully that helps. Does anyone have any questions about lighting and making yourself look better on camera?
So we've done a little bit of this in our studio, and lighting is, I mean, Scott was talking about...
Another session tomorrow, going to the studio and...
Scott was talking about cameras, though, but the key thing is really the lighting is, and this is the hard part. Like, oh, the software can just, like, what settings do I use in the software to make it awesome? Well, start with good footage. Start with good lighting. And so this is, lighting is important. I had no clue about any of this stuff, a year ago, but it really is critical.
You want to try and teach yourself to see. And this is an interesting challenge, but compare CNN to your local news. You will see some differences. Hopefully not much, but watch a lot of news broadcasts, because that's a very good example of a presenter. Television is very flat, two-dimensional medium, and how are they using lighting? Look for the light on the shoulders and on the hairline. Look at the side of the face. One side of the face tends to be brighter, one tends to be softer, and this helps model. If both sides are the same intensity, you tend to look flat. If you don't have any light on the back, you don't tend to stand out from your green screen. So light the green screen separately. You've got to be at least a yard away from it. If you can get to 6 feet away, even better. But that can be a problem, because you may have a size problem in the size of your office. But the further you are away from that green screen, and the more light you can put on the back of the green screen, the easier it is to drop it out again. When you have problems, it's probably because you didn't like the green screen bright enough, or you're too close to the screen. These are common problems to have. And yes, if you've got blue eyes, don't use a blue screen. And if you're going to use a green screen, don't wear anything green. And that's it. It's all about what do you want to see and how do you want to see it. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any tips for using either teleprompter like apps or where to place whatever you're reading off of?
Sure, there are some teleprompter apps, and you can play with some on my iPad if you like later. The easiest kind of teleprompter is called a big sheet of paper with a little bit of tape. But you're raising an important thing. Write a script. You can ad-lib, of course, if you want. But if you write a script down and then read it out loud, what does it sound like? If you're unsure about something, then maybe there's a reason to think about editing. And if you are unsure, ask someone to come and listen to you. Read the script out loud, because what it sounds like and when you type, often there's some differences between those two issues. And a good reason to write a script is, if you're going to use YouTube, you want to take that script as text and use that as closed captions, and use some of your keywords in your script conversation, because Google will search that. And the more times you use closed captions, the greater likelihood of your video being found again. But the old way, of course, is just a big piece of paper. So if you type a script, you can just blow it up.
How far away or how close to the camera, or where do you place it in relationship to the camera? Because you don't want it to seem like you're looking down or up.
You want to look directly at the camera. So what you can do is, if you have a short script, cut a hole in the piece of paper and put the script right over top of the camera. That's what you're looking at. You're reading the script. And if you watch news announcers, watch their eyes. Sometimes you've watched closely, you'll see them move left to right because they're reading the teleprompter. But what happens is the teleprompter is actually a two-way mirror that goes right in front of the camera itself. So if you don't own a teleprompter, you can use iPad apps as teleprompters, but your eyes are always going to be slightly off to the side, like those two examples that I showed earlier of not quite. I mean, we have a professional marketer who should be looking right at the camera. He may not be. He may be looking off to the side. But cut a hole in a big piece of paper, look directly at the camera. How far to the camera really has more to do with the image you want. From a chroma key perspective or a background perspective, you'll know if it's right, but do a test. That's all. The most important thing is to do a little test your setup. If it looks right, you're all set to go.
Hey John, can I share that?
Yes, certainly, of course. Yeah, I can give you.
I've got the link.
There's a bit.ly URL which may be easier to try and remember.
I was going to just dump the link.
Oh, whatever you like.
Right
Yeah.
into the doc.
Okay, sure. Yeah, go right ahead. So this presentation that Matt's putting into the document is an example of a replacement to PowerPoint. I don't really like using PowerPoint. I prefer using Camtasia Studio as a produced presentation. The reason for that is I like using lots of video. When you start using lots of video in PowerPoint, it's going to slow down and it forces you to use WMV. I'd rather stick to MP4 video. And what I do with a presentation is instead of giving people paper handouts, I just give them a URL link at the beginning of the presentation. Say, this is the presentation. You can click on the table of contents and jump about if you want, but this is what I'm going to be talking about. So they have the presentation, they can watch it. I'm going to not necessarily view it online. Everyone else can view it on screencast.com, but I'll run it live off my laptop, and that's a handy way to present. So what happens is I'm using my mouse and I'm clicking and starting and stopping each slide as an image. I like using PowerPoint a lot for individual image slide creation, but then I export the image as a PNG and then assemble everything together in Camtasia Studio. Much better. And then I've got this nice table of contents as a viewer control, because many screens are 4:3, so if I do it in 16:9, the table of contents tends to be off the screen. You don't see it here, but I'll see it on my screen as a presenter. So that's what was an example of what I was doing.
I have a question.
Certainly.
I'd like to take it back to Scott. Could you show a little bit of how to do the editing in Camtasia?
Yes.
Even Mac, that'd be
Yeah. Before we get, do you have Camtasia Studio on yours?
Yeah.
Can you show it? Awesome. Definitely on the teleprompter, Teleprompt Plus is an app I recommend. This is what you're going to see up here, guys. I've got it. Let's talk budget for a second, because quite honestly, it can go through the roof with a teleprompter. It's a $5 app, and I'm just using my iPad right behind the camera. Am I looking directly at the lens? No. But as you get further and further away, people will never know the difference. Okay, so a great tip is, use your big Post-its on the wall. That'll work. But if you want to put something like that right behind your camera, you're good to go. $5, well worth it. Trust me, it'll make your life so much easier. Teleprompt Plus.
I think that's it, yes.
And you can also get the iPhone app. So what I've done is I can be in front of my teleprompter, but control the speed with my phone. And so if I screw up, and I still screw up a lot, even with a teleprompter, you just rewind it and do another take. So you can nail your presentation every time with a script. It just makes it so much easier. You don't forget anything. So for $5, guys, well worth it. Just do that. As Matt is setting up here, lights, okay, that big square panel, those are expensive. They're great, but they can be expensive. Don't hesitate maybe to just get like an umbrella kit. It's like $60. And they've got some of these bulbs. This was a kind of a small one, but they got some huge ones that are about like $15 a piece. And they put out a lot of light, and it's really soft. And that's what you want. You want soft light so you minimize your shadows. So that'll be the way to go there. So that will allow you, the better your camera, the better your lighting, you'll get a good footage. And then Matt, we bring that footage right in to Camtasia. You all set to maybe show something on the Camtasia side?
I need to find an example.
Okay, no problem. Any other questions on the hardware or perhaps setup before we go into the actual how-to piece?
Just a comment, I've used fluorescent fixtures. They make fluorescent lights in daylight for video and
Yep.
Oh, the
photo
full
work.
spectrum one?
Yep.
Yeah, that's
And-
gonna be my question.
And you can get 4-footers, and you can put them in 2-outlet hardware and stand them up this way, and that's how I light a green screen.
Basically, put them on the side and make it vertical.
Yeah.
Make your verticals, yeah.
So it's taller than it is wide, and put them at 15 degrees or so. And the bulbs are like $10 a piece, but they'll last forever.
Linear fluorescent lamps are an excellent way to light a green screen backdrop. But be aware of the term full spectrum. It's not a valid term. It's a phony marketing term. There's no such thing as a full spectrum fluorescent lamp. That's just nonsense. But yes, a daylight lamp tends to indicate, if you understand in photography, we talk about tungsten lighting, which is about 3200 Kelvin, and daylight, which is maybe about 5600 Kelvin. Those two ways to switch back and forth. And you can color balance daylight and artificial lights to be primarily tungsten focused, if that's the color you like, or primarily daylight focused, if that's the color you like. But you want to make sure you set your camera up for daylight or tungsten balance. Some cameras have the ability to adjust the color temperature, so you could make the images you're making a little warmer or a little cooler based on what you want to see. But this function only really happens with more elaborate cameras.
I'm sorry. Keep going.
Just keep talking. Stretch it out, stretch it out.
I'm working in parallel, but I haven't done, I just got parallel, so. And it's Windows 8, so.
Even worse.
Just a linear fluorescent lamp. So one of the things you can do is you can take a hard light source and bounce it off a white piece of cardboard, a foam core, or even a white sheet. There's a handy way to make a soft light and have something direct. You can use two different kinds of light. You want a soft light generally, and you want something hard and crisp. So you've got two different sides of light from each side of your face to help modeling. And if you can, get a backlight, so you put some light on your hairline and your shoulders, and that really helps you stand out. Just like in the example you could see of those newscasters, they were actually quite close to the back of the set, but the set was a photograph that was out of focus, so it looked like there was more depth there. You're tricked into thinking it's something else. And if you're going to use green screen, try if you can use realistic photographs that you made yourself. And then do what Scott did. You can blur them a little bit if you want to accentuate the depth. But it's always annoying to look at green screen where someone's used a prefabricated artificial composition. It doesn't look real.
Okay, Matt, it looks like you're ready to go through some of the actual how-to pieces,
Sure.
as he says with confidence.
Right,
All right, so we've got our video here. I won't worry too much about dimensions and playing with that. Let me just do recording dimensions. This video is quite large, but that's really not what's important. So there's a couple things that's going on here. I'd optimize this. I'd get rid of, make sure I didn't have black bars or anything like that, but I won't worry about that at this point. So in Camtasia Studio 8.1, you have to be on that version. What you really want to do is, first of all, get your video in here. Now you'll notice a couple things. This was lit pretty well. Notice we didn't shoot it so that the entire, you wouldn't want this brick, obviously. You don't want this white line. But what we can do in Camtasia now is crop. So you can crop out all this stuff that you don't need. I won't worry about that for this example, just so we can get to the heart of it. And then there's your visual properties tool. I'm going to make sure my playhead's at the beginning of the timeline, and or at the beginning of the video. And then you can scroll down. The sizing on this seems a little bit off because of the projector, but you've got your remove a color option right here in the bottom. We stay away from the word chroma key, green screen, but really it's all the same thing. And this will work for many things. It's not just a green screen. If you've got an image that you want to make something transparent, you can do that as well. First thing you do is just check the button, and it gives you your little color option here, color picker. And what I would do is just select the color. You could try to match it here, but that's mean. If you already knew that was the exact color that would work, the little eyedropper tool actually works a lot better. Now, as you notice, you move it around, you're going to get different colors because it's on a spectrum. It's as much as you might try to have it all be one flat color with the light, it's almost impossible to do. But it looks like a little darker over here than it is over here, and so you want to try to find one and just play with it. You click, and then you'll notice that, and I'll make this a little bit bigger here so we can hopefully see a little bit better. We look at Matt here. You'll notice he's really zoomed in, and you can see the green halo. So that's not what you want, especially, it's maybe a little harder to see that once I get an image in the background. So I could go to my library real quick. Let's make Matt a rock star here. So now, so you can see the whole thing. You can kind of see, and obviously I'd need to match sizes and things like that so it looks good. So we can start playing with this. So kind of cool, right? We got this nice background. It looks kind of fancy when it plays back. I would want to adjust the animation. It is running a little slow through parallels, and the camera video is actually really big. So you can't really see the green too much, but we can see it enough that you might, especially when he moves, we'd want to probably fix that. Let's see here. If I'd known I was going to do this, I would have prepared my timeline a little bit better.
So just to comment while Matt's doing
Yep.
something, if you see that green halo in your test, try and move a little bit further away from the screen if you can, and the more backlight you have, the less that type of green halo fringing of the edge will be visible. That's really the best way to get rid of something is to do it that way as opposed to trying to fix it in post-production. Do it as you're shooting it.
So it looks like my parallels is actually frozen up. So I'm not seeing the changes. But we'll see what I can at least talk through some of these things. Because really, this is where there's no science to me. It's more art.
Right.
More just fine tuning, but you've got a couple of these different things that you can do. The tolerance, what's the spectrum of green it's going to accept? Like, are you going to take everything close to green, or just a very specific narrow range of that RGB color? And so you can adjust your tolerance up and down to see, like, oh, well, that takes too much, that does too little. Softness can lighten up some of the halo, so you can adjust that. The hue, you can play with that. And defringing, well, actually, it's kind of fun. If you defringe too far one way or the other, it changes the way you look. Like, it will start to see gray. And I'm sorry my machine is freezing up here. I wish I knew why. It's probably because just the files is really large and parallels. But so really, this is the part. Just you tweak these sliders until you get your desired result. And there's not a set. I wish I could say do these 4 things and you're going to be successful in this part. It really is individual based on the video, the way it was lit, the way the camera brought it in. But you're going to just tweak each of these a little bit, and your goal is to get rid of all the green. Once you've gotten rid of the green and you haven't distorted the person, you're good. So one of the things to watch out for, if I don't have this much of a problem because I don't have much hair, but if you have someone like spiky hair or longer hair and got some like flyaways, those get caught sometimes in the defringing process and the tolerance process, and they will disappear. So you might notice like, oh, they got a kind of a haircut. That didn't look good. So be careful of that. If someone's moving a lot, you got to kind of watch through it. Make sure you haven't done it too much. The other thing you can do that's kind of cool with green screen is, and again, my computer doesn't show it, but the invert effect, you can create a mask. So this will take everything, leave the green, and take you out of it, everything that's not green. So you can kind of create this thing that then there's could be something behind there. So you see the, anyone remember the Apple iPod commercials with the dancing figures that were silhouettes? Reverse inverted effect of green screen. You can make your own. Try it out. We'll have a dance party later or something. Record you in front of a green screen. So, I mean, really, and I think it's the same types of tweaks in Camtasia for Mac. it's again, this is the art of it versus the science. The science is in the lighting. You light it well, you're gonna have good results, and actually this becomes easier. You know, but this is just tweak, tweak, tweak. Yes.
I have a question. Let's say that I can't get it quite the way I want it in Camtasia. How can I take this into, say, another program, an Adobe program, Premiere or something? Is there a better likelihood I can get it to that exact specification?
You know, I've played with Adobe Premiere, and from my background, if you can find the right pieces, which that's usually the difficulty, is in Premiere. There's so many options. Yeah, I mean they've spent a lot of time on it. I'm gonna give them kudos because I think they've got it does a really nice job, and they've got some stuff that can make it pretty automatic if you can find it. But finding it is really tough. I know I was trying to do something with it. I had to go and I spent a lot of time on Google just looking for the answers of how to do it. And so the thing is, you know, I'm sure we'll get better. We can improve the software from a TechSmith perspective. But yeah, if it doesn't quite get it right, but the formula and the essential elements are the same. You really still need to spend your time in lighting. We've done shots. You know, we've got 4 of these LED banks. You don't need that. Does it help? Sure, but they've dropped in price about $350 a pop. You're probably, that's probably a lot. These can lights, yeah, get some good light bulbs, get some, the photography umbrellas and stuff like that. Invest in that. If you want to do a lot of green screen, get your lighting right, get a decent camera, and it's going to make your life a lot easier.
And Matt, I will say this, having used some of the different applications, I will tell you, I've used Final Cut, I've used ScreenFlow, and I've used Camtasia Mac. When it comes to chroma key, Camtasia Mac by far does the best output. It is good enough, and I've shared with people, guys, what we're after here, web video is not about perfection, it's about connection. And the reason we do some of the chroma keys that we do is because we want people to be able to see our eyes, our smile, to see and feel our passion and compassion. Okay, it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, we're not going to produce a Hollywood blockbuster, and this is going to the web anyway. It doesn't have to be like that. So we will get good enough results and achieve our objective of connecting with people. So Camtasia, I think, that's probably all you need. Even with Final Cut, it's all I don't even use it. Matt, you got some other tips in the software?
Yeah, I'm trying to reboot the Windows side here.
All right. We've
That's
only got
okay.
a couple minutes left, so you know.
Yeah.
Question, yeah.
Can you give some ideas for the specifications on a camera that you think is the minimum to make it work without a whole lot of
So,
expense?
honestly, and Scott mentioned this before, the iPhone. So Shane Lavella, formerly product manager for Camtasia Studio, and now moved on to some other things here at TechSmith as a solutions manager. If you've watched kind of the progress of Camtasia over the last year or so, when I'm trying to think of which version of 8 point something came out. I don't remember. Anyone else remember which version he did that? He did. He made a video, a green screen video. I think it was for Camtasia Mac. And he shot it in his office with an iPhone, and it looked really, really good. So, I mean, the minimum is probably the quality of an iPhone. You got a little point and shoot that does video, try it out. It might be all that you need. Really, the thing that you want, if you want to get really the best, is you look at the sensor on a camera, like a full frame sensor, like a D5 Mark III, which is a really expensive camera that does a really nice job. It's going to give you way more options because it can detect way more on the color spectrum. So it can get more finer details when that tolerance is a lot more. It's like, oh, that's in the range of tolerance, but this one's not. But if you've got a DSLR, that's going to give you really good quality. A good handycam, you can get a good handycam for a couple $100 that will do a good job. But your iPhone, honestly, in terms of what it can do, and I'm sure some of the new Android devices. I know, I was just reading something about the new Motorola X. It just literally came out this week. And people were like, oh, this has got a really good camera on it. Okay, That's what you need. Somebody mentioned, who's using the GoPro? The only thing I find with the GoPro is that everything seems to be desaturated. So, which means the colors just aren't very, it doesn't look quite like natural, it's kind of flat. And so that's the only challenge I see with that. And that actually probably works okay in terms of green screen, but the footage is like, you gotta almost colorize everything.
Yeah, because it does that bubbly thing.
It does a bubbly thing, but then it just, the color like it receives, it just doesn't feel very, like, you look at the GoPro's videos and they look, wow, that's really great. But they've actually probably taken it into a professional editing thing and done color correction on it. You know, added some red, green, blue to make it look more vibrant. But it's actually, it should work pretty well too. Let me see if I can log in here.
We are at time.
Okay. Well, then we won't bother you with my logging into Windows. So yeah, I guess if you have any other questions, we do have Conan Heiselt's in the back. He actually did our training tutorial, some of our tutorials on green screen with Camtasia. So if you got more specific questions, he would be a great person to talk to. In fact, he should have been up here instead of me.
They're online.
And so then obviously find Scott, and you know, if you want to check out the lights, we will take this back so the light panel doesn't get broken, but you want to see the other stuff. And we'll do tours at some point today and tomorrow to see the stuff in its natural environment.
Cool, good job.
Good job, John.